All right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. A warm welcome to everyone. We have members, Mayor Joe and St. Thomas Council, welcome. And Sean Dyke and your board members, welcome. And certainly to councilors from Central Elgin. Thank you all for being here. We are starting on time and I'm going to try to keep us on time. I've been told many of us have further meetings today, so I don't want to rush anyone, but we want to be cognizant of the clock. So, do we have any adoption minutes? We don't. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof. And I'm not seeing any. Presenting petitions, presentations, and delegations. We have the Regional Economic Development Services Feasibility Study final report. Strategy Corp, I never said welcome to you, but welcome. They're here today and they're going to lead us through. So the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Warden, and thank you to Elgin County Council. Thank you to the members of the City of St. Thomas Council, and thank you to the members of the Economic Development Corporation Board who are with us this evening. We are pleased to present to you our report on the feasibility of undertaking a joint economic development function with the City of St. Thomas. And I'm just waiting for the presentation to load here. Just one second. And so we're very pleased to present the results of the feasibility study. As members of County Council may remember, when we had the pleasure last time of presenting to you on the service delivery review that we completed for the county last fall, one of the recommendations was to explore looking at a joint or a shared services arrangement for the economic development function. And we were further retained to undertake the feasibility study, so moving that recommendation forward with this feasibility study. And so we have the final results of our analysis here for you tonight. So I'm going to take everybody through the presentation. If I can get it to cooperate for me. It should only take about 10 or 15 minutes to take you through the approach that we undertook to undertaking this feasibility study, the findings that we came to through looking at the current state of both organizations and looking at the current state in the context of some comparators, coming up with a short list of options that we evaluated in terms of moving forward with the economic development function, and then what ultimately our recommendation is for your consideration. So I'll take about 10 or 15 minutes to do that. In terms of the process that we undertook, we were hired earlier this year to look at the feasibility of a shared services function, and we spent most of January and February consulting with key stakeholders and looking at comparator models within the province of Ontario in order to determine what options might make sense for the county going forward with its economic development function. I'm pleased to say we held a number of workshops and one-on-one interviews, and I think they were pretty thorough and comprehensive. We interviewed 9 county councillors, 9 councillors with the City of St. Thomas. We did a focus group with representatives from the local municipal partners in the county, and we also did a session with the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation's board and interviews with their key leadership, as well as the leadership of the City of St. Thomas. So it was important for us going into this process that while we were retained by the county to look at the feasibility, we really needed to make sure that we looked at the feasibility not exclusively from the county's perspective, but also from the interests of the City of St. Thomas itself and the Economic Development Corporation, because it makes no sense in coming forward with the feasibility study that says it makes a lot of sense for the county if there isn't necessarily the political or business will on behalf of the other partners to make a shared services approach a reality. So in terms of how we approach this, we did take a first principles approach to undertaking the study. In looking at some kind of core principles that are essential to a fully functioning and a successful economic development function for a municipality. There are three key principles that we outlined here that guided us in looking at the current state, but also what options would ultimately make sense. Obviously, economic inclusivity. We heard through the SDR process, and we continue to hear through this process, that there is a diverse range of businesses in industries across the county and within the city itself. And so the needs of each of those different businesses and sectors that are sources of jobs and economic growth within the county writ large need to be reflected and respected and included in any economic development function that the county may use going forward. We also need to make sure that there is equity between the county and the city, and that a joint economic development model is beneficial to both. And not just beneficial to both, but also has to be beneficial to the lower tier or to the local municipal partners as well. And then there has to be collective buy-in. As I said just a moment ago, if there's only it's lonely if you're the only dance partner, but if there's more than one dance partner and they want to give it a go in terms of a joint model for pursuing economic development, collective buy-in is critical. And so understanding those principles, what does that mean in practical reality? And what are the kinds of things we were looking out for as we undertook the feasibility study? In practice, that means that there's a good understanding of the local market needs and the assets that are inherent in the municipalities across the county. So the various economic development interests and opportunities, that there's dedicated staff, and that staff have the capabilities to support the local markets and the sectors that are resident there, and the assets that we have to leverage for economic development. There's also needs to ensure that we're working across the community, and that we're reflecting the geographic and sectoral differences that exist, but also understanding the various local organizations, businesses themselves, formal or informal associations that are necessary and are part of the ecosystem for economic development. And then lastly, partnership being a fundamental component of it in terms of moving forward with the shared services arrangement. It very much, the parties have to go into it seeing it being equal partners in making any joint venture work. So those were the principles and how we translated them into practice. We also obviously took our time to speak to each of you and to speak to other stakeholders interested in this initiative. And we heard a number of things that helped shape and influence our thinking and how we evaluated the options that were identified for moving forward for the county. There was a common theme across all the stakeholders that we spoke to that, this is opportune timing in terms of looking at a joint or shared services model. The level of interest and the rapport between the county and the city, including the local municipal partners, is as strong as it's ever been. And there is a real willingness across the parties to work in partnership to pursue a shared service approach to economic development. Equitable economic service across the region is really important. There can't be an overemphasis on any one particular sector of the economy, any one type of business, any one part of the geography. It's important that a shared economic development function has the internal capabilities and, quite frankly, the direction from governance to ensure that it's focusing on the broad economic development interests of everybody who will be serviced under a shared service model. Clear objectives and performance indicators. One of the frustrations I think that we heard through the service delivery review was it was oftentimes very difficult to understand whether or not the investments that were being made in the economic development function were yielding a sufficient return, and there was an absence of metrics associated with that. So pursuing a shared service arrangement, it will be very important that it is rooted in establishing clear, agreed upon objectives that can be measured and regularly reported out to, not just to the board of the EDC or to council, but to the public and to businesses that are going to be relying on this shared service. Local business involvement is also obviously something that is very important. We heard a lot about the need to make sure that those voices are well represented, that they're integrated into any model, shared services model that may be explored and may be pursued between the county and the city. Business retention and attraction. It's not just all about these days catching the big fish. In fact, it's increasingly rare for any geography in the province of Ontario or in the country to land the big fish. It really is about supporting the businesses that are homegrown, that are set up right in our backyard, and helping to retain them, helping to grow them. And so it's you have to be opportunistic, and if there is a potential large scale investment that can come to the area that is the county and the city, obviously you want to pursue that, but you should be spending just as much, if not more, attention on what is already in your own backyard and helping to support businesses stay and grow in the county. And then there are region-wide opportunities. Stakeholders said, by coming together, there are a number of opportunities that can be better met through combined resources of a joint economic development effort, such as the airport, looking and thinking maybe more broadly, more creatively about what to do with assets such as the former Ford's land. So overall, I think the stakeholder feedback as presented here was positive and positively inclined towards looking at some sort of joint or shared services for economic development, keeping certain things in mind, but certainly I think the will is there amongst partners to be open to it and to give it a try if it makes sense from a feasibility perspective. I won't spend too much time on this slide here, but it just gives you a sense of the current state of both the level of investment and the types of services that are provided through the county's economic development department, and those that are provided through the Economic Development Corporation for the city of St. Thomas. There are a number of things that both organizations do that is similar. There is also some crossover in terms of supports, particularly the Small Business Enterprise Center. In terms of the relative spend, that we a 3-year average of that spend here. We do have some comment a little bit later that there may be an opportunity for the county, and I know the county didn't undertake this feasibility study looking to reduce costs. They're looking to get better, potentially, are there models to get better value for the money that they are investing in economic development? We believe, the preview to coming attractions that there is, and there may even be opportunities to further to generate some additional savings through the economies of scale that you may get through a relationship with the EDC. But this is just a sense of the current state. Obviously, the city of St. Thomas has an arm's length economic development corporation with its own board of directors, and the county has its own function, is an internal function, part of the overall county administrative structure. So in terms of some of the opportunities and challenges that we had to keep in mind as we looked at setting up options and evaluating options for what may make sense from a feasibility perspective, some of the key concerns I talked about, certainly from the county's perspective, looking for greater program efficacy, making sure that service levels are appropriate and that the services that are provided meet the needs of all LMPs and the different sectors that are resident within the county, and that the broad range of economic activity that happens within the county is appropriately prioritized. within any updated function or shared service function with the city, and that there is a level of trust in the economic development function across the county that can be strengthened through greater outreach and efforts to bring all parties critical in the economic development ecosystem to the table. From the city's perspective, there's the opportunity to have a broader view of the economic development playground, for lack of a better term, in terms of complementary resources, going beyond, artificial distinctions that are created by political boundaries through a shared services function. The concept of working against the concept of local competition, which a number of folks identified as counterintuitive. In fact, there's probably more that we can achieve. The view was there's more we can achieve together by looking at economic development more in a more integrated and holistic manner across the county than if we were not to come together. Community trust is a shared priority, and again, everybody echoed that it's important that all sectors that are generating economic activity are appropriately resourced and supported through an economic development function. So in terms of the so what of the analysis in what we did and of what we heard from stakeholders, the economic development function from the county's perspective requires more clarity in terms of its direction and its strategy and the metrics on which it's going to be assessed to understand how that investment is turning into impact. There's an opportunity to go beyond the artificial constraints created by political boundaries by being more integrated and looking at economic development more holistically across the county. The St. Thomas has already made a corporation with expertise inherent, and that expertise can be augmented through a shared service arrangement, and that together, if St. Thomas and the county do come together, they will have potentially a level of resourcing that is on par with one of the comparators we looked at, which was the Windsor Essex Economic Development Corporation, and being able to pool those resources to deliver even greater impact from an economic development perspective. And so an effective regional economic development approach based on what we heard and what we know from looking at other comparators is that there has to be a suite of services and expertise that responds to the diverse needs of the various sectors across the local municipal partners and the businesses within the region. There has to be strategic clarity on the direction of economic development. There has to be clear measures and metrics of performance. The expansion and bringing together of services should be used to create a greater sector specialization, so that promise of making sure that all sectors are reflected in an economic development function comes true and is appropriately supported. And there's opportunity, obviously, to make sure that we're coordinating, streamlining investment attraction and retention efforts and working as a whole, as opposed to the sum of our parts. So with that in mind, we thought, okay, so what are the options that are at the disposal of the county? The one is to the status quo and look to improve the current function in-house. The second is to pursue shared services arrangement with the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation through a memorandum of agreement. And the third is to also pursue a shared service arrangement with the Economic Development Corporation, but by becoming a formal member of the not-for-profit corporation that is the EDC. Each of these comes with its advantages and disadvantages. Ultimately, where we landed based on our assessment is that what makes most sense at this point in time is to pursue, and what is most feasible at this time, is to pursue a shared service arrangement with the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation through a memorandum of agreement. And so you may say, well, why wouldn't the county just become a member of the corporation and be done with it? Well, I think, given that we're trying something new here, a memorandum of agreement essentially is the same as a purchase of service arrangement. You can negotiate a contract for the EDC to provide the supports. You can set up set a clear strategy and clear expectations and associated performance metrics, and you can ease yourself into that relationship and give it time to evolve and bear fruit. And over time, if you want to deepen the level of integration of the operation, the county could very well look at becoming a member of the corporation. We feel that the benefits of a shared services arrangement can be achieved quicker and with less time. Sorting out governance issues of becoming a member in the not-for-profit corporation if it pursued a memorandum of agreement, and as the relationship grows and it's proving its worth, you can look at deepening the level of integration with the city. And so our recommendation is that you pursue, based on our sense of the feasibility, a memorandum of agreement between the county and the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation that would also include looking at opportunities to transfer resources to the Economic Development Committee. That includes people, and also looking to the Economic Development Committee to expand its board somewhat to make sure that the county and its interests in the sectors that are active in the county are represented at the EDC table. So that's our recommendation. We think that, based on this approach, you'll see an expansion of the economic development suite of services that better addresses the diverse economic development needs of local municipal partners and the businesses in the county and in the city. It likely will result in a minimized impact staff in comparison to other options. There's an opportunity here for evaluation and looking at whether or not you keep on with the memorandum of agreement, or you look at a deeper level of integration. Also, through the memorandum of agreement, it really does give you an opportunity to work with a blank page and say, here are the things we want to achieve and how are we going to measure whether or not we're achieving those. We also believe a shared service arrangement, in addition to getting better value for the money that the county puts into economic development, may actually also provide an opportunity for a bottom line dollar savings, so that can be redeployed to other county priorities. And the benefit of the approach we're recommending is that it's easier, simpler, and more direct to implement, to get on with the job of focusing on economic development, as opposed to rethinking through the structuring of a corporation and governance and all the things that are inherent in doing that. So looking to realize those benefits and move on with the relationship quicker. So with that, Warden, I'll turn it back to you, and we're happy to answer any questions that folks may have of us.
Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate the presentation. Now, obviously, we're not here to make decisions tonight, but we certainly hope to have some good discussion. So I will open the floor for comments, questions. Obviously, I don't think I can see everyone here, so don't be shy in speaking out if you have a question.
Might be easiest, Chris, if you stop sharing your screen.
I shall do that.
Thank you.
There, I'm seeing Councillor Herbert, you had your hand covered in your screen.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Question. Yes.
Thank you. On the last screen where you talked about rationale, you said that you'd realize operating savings through shared services of 10 to 20%. Do you have specific areas in mind that you came to this conclusion of 10 to 20% savings?
Certainly in terms of there's always overhead or productivity savings, which are the overhead savings would be direct financial. The others wouldn't. But generally a rule of thumb is that you can expect somewhere in the vicinity of 10 to 20% based on a literature review by moving towards a shared service arrangement, where the real details around savings, where they'll actually materialize, will be when you actually negotiate the memorandum of agreement, and that'll give you a sense as to what where the Economic Development Corporation can deliver savings based on existing capacity they have. And so that's, you know, if you're going to direct this to staff and have them work up their recommendation as to whether or not to pursue this after the feasibility, that's where the rubber is going to hit the road in terms of specific areas. So we didn't do a detailed line by line analysis, Councillor, but we do think just based on the quantum of the spend and the, you know, looking at the efficiency of the spend of the City of St. Thomas's Economic Development Corporation, look at what comparators are spending, there should be an opportunity to save 10 to 20%.
Thank you.
Next question, comment. Councillor Mennel, go ahead. I think you're on mute, Dave.
Okay, that's better. Sorry about that. Chris, under the number 2, the option, memorandum of agreement. Obviously, we're going to have staff on both sides of St. Thomas and the county. It's very difficult to have 2 bosses. How do you see that structure?
So so through the memorandum of agreement, the city will basically be contracting with the Economic Development Corporation to provide its economic development services. We do contemplate that because they'll be serving a larger base, that there will be a need to transfer staff resources over as well, so that you can provide the level of support that is needed to both the bigger geography, but as I also said, ensuring you have people in place to deliver the sectoral specialization that is needed to make sure that everybody's represented and getting service. And so from an accountability perspective, Councillor, what it would be is, because it's an administrative agreement, the EDC will both expand its board to, under our model, would expand its board to have representatives from the county, but it would also be incumbent on the EDC and the memorandum that is agreed to between the parties to have the EDC appear at council on a regular basis to be providing you with an update and to be providing a report out on how it's achieving against the scope and the performance metrics that are set in the memorandum of agreement. So it won't work if it goes into a black box and things, you know, kind of stop at the EDC board level. There will need to be, you know, a regular interaction with county councils so that you understand and have there's transparency into how that agreement is translating into impact for the investment you're making in it.
Okay, thanks, Chris. And I agree with number 2. It makes sense to me. Yes, we are 2 municipalities, but really we are one neighborhood, and whatever benefits to St. Thomas, that also benefits the county and vice versa.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Question from Councillor Martin.
Yes, I just wanted to, how long would you expect, Chris, to evaluate this memorandum of understanding and its effectiveness before you would, you know, make final decisions or whatever? Like, how long do you think it would take? Because things don't change instantly.
I would say a review after 5 years of how it's worked, and, you know, making a determination as to what that means. Maybe you enhance the MOU, you change it, or, you know, heaven forbid, you decide you need an off-ramp, or you look at a deeper level integration. But I would say 5 years is an appropriate time frame to allow this to find its feet and to sufficiently determine if it's having the impact that is desired by all parties involved.
Thank you.
Councillor Peters, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Warden, and good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I had some issues getting in because of technology. In too many different ways, we need to land on one platform to have meetings. And anyway, my question is perhaps to Chris, but maybe to Sean Dyke, but just for the county councilor's perspective, I think the Economic Development Corporation in St. Thomas has been sort of this unique entity that's in many ways been arm's length of city council, but it's kind of like a Chinese veil, and it's worked really well I think from the perspective of economic development and trying to keep things compartmentalized, maybe the best way. And so they've sort of been arm's length, but it's worked really well. And my question to Sean or Chris would be, but more to Sean, the Economic Development Corporation is a separate entity. And so are we going to have to go through a process of amending the letters patent, you know, to ensure that we have county representation on a board? Would, you know, would that have to be amendment? And also some of the things that we've sort of utilized the EDC for as far as holding land, is this something that could be expanded, that we could perhaps pool more land resources across the county under the umbrella of the Economic Development Corporation?
If I may, I'm
Sure.
happy to answer that, if that's all right, Chris.
Absolutely.
We've done a bit of a review of our bylaws, and our bylaws actually allow us to expand our board. There's nothing really stopping us from adding however many number of county council representatives or county business representatives as may be required to satisfy kind of the needs of what people are looking for as this moves forward. So I think there's certainly not, under the strategy, under the option that Strategy Corp has come up with, I don't think we'd actually have to change anything legally to start with. Currently, the EDC operates under basically a service agreement with the city of St. Thomas, and you could effectively write a separate one for County of Elgin, and they would merge together in however way that works. As far as land holdings go, currently the EDC doesn't own all that much land. We have some land that we lease to Format Industries on an annual basis that we currently have. All the rest of the land that we had, we've sold. But certainly, if there's opportunities to acquire land that crosses borders, I think there's lots of opportunity there, and it's just more a matter of whether we have the funding on either side or both sides to make that happen.
And Councillor Peters, that's one of the reasons why we say start with the memorandum of agreement. We shouldn't have to amend letters patent. We shouldn't have to amend bylaws and all that stuff to get on with the job. You may over time want a deeper level of integration, but the real focus here is how do we get better impact for the economic development investment we make, and this is the cleanest, simplest, most straightforward way to do it.
Thank you. A comment from Councillor McPhail, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm not sure who wants to tackle this. Certainly, you provided a canvas with a drawing on it. Like any picture, it needs color to go along with it, and I'm just wondering who is going to put the color on that picture in a way that we as councillors can understand what the terms and conditions are. Is that something that the St. Thomas Economic Development Committee will put together a proposal for Elgin County to look at and see what we think of it? Or is it something that's going to be done jointly with city and county? Or is it something that a consultant like yourself is going to have to ferret out and put an initial proposal together? What's our next step?
So your next step would be for county, well, subject to council approval in terms of moving forward. But it would be to have Julie and her team, I would think, work with Sean and his team to come up with that memorandum agreement. That'll be where you're putting the color to the canvas, councillor. What I would say is that there are a lot of functions that both are performing now. I don't see it as being a terribly difficult process. I think, if anything, it'll be a clarifying process, certainly for the county, in terms of better understanding how the EDC does it and resources it, and allowing the county to say this, reflect on, what are our objectives around the things we're investing our money in, and how do we translate that into things that the EDC will do for us, and then how are we going to translate that into performance measures that we can be transparent about, keeping track of and reporting back to council and businesses and taxpayers as a result. So I think there's a lot of common ground. It will have to be a negotiation to get to that memorandum of agreement between the county administration and the EDC.
To supplement for Mr. Warden. So is it a situation that where we go from today, is it a matter that will require a resolution from both city and county to show that there is interest in the fact of tell us more? I think somewhere along the line, we'll have to give our staff that indication. I don't think we're in a position to do that today, but certainly I need more information. I think everybody else needs more, and we need to know what it's going to look like.
Lori, go ahead.
Thank you, Warden. I really enjoyed the presentation because it provides a look into where the opportunity zones are in our communities without having the boundary lines. And this to me is an enhancement of all opportunities that are available under commercial and industrial sectors. I do have a question, and it dovetails what Mayor Martin was talking about about some of those timelines about the evaluation process. What in your expert advice do you find, what are some of the metrics that were used for assessments by other communities, such as Windsor, Essex, and creating those metrics in order to be able to fully evaluate the success of this program, whether it be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or 6 months?
Yeah, and Chris, my colleague Chris Andrew, if there's anything you want to, it's gonna be a mix of qualitative and quantitative. You know, one of the things you're going to want to make sure, and it's one of the things, Councillor, that we heard from the feedback, which is you know, the level of business engagement and the level of business satisfaction with the service that is being provided. So that is certainly an important qualitative. You know, at the end of the day, is the customer happy? Is the customer feeling that they're supported? Are they engaged with the activities that the EDC is undertaking? So those are certainly important metrics to be tracked, and that's what other economic development corporations do as well. And then you know, along the more quantitative, you know, it's going to be things around, you know, the types of programs and the take up of the programs that are offered. So, you know, you already have a couple in terms of small business enterprise. You know, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, what kinds of additional metrics, or, you know, how you may rethink the metrics around the CIP program that you're going to want to set up now through a shared service approach. And then, you know, one of the things we did here too is, you know, about growing the businesses that are in your own backyard. So, you know, keeping track of, you know, the number of businesses that are formed, you know, how many of those survive after year 1, how many of those are surviving after year 5, and being able to use that to both inform, but also track the types of programs that are used to support that type of incubation and growth of local businesses. So those are the typical things. And Sean, I don't know if you'd add anything that you guys typically keep track of on behalf of St. Thomas, but those are the types of things you want to be able to keep track of.
Yeah, and thanks, Chris. I could chime in as well. Looking at the Windsor Essex model, they ran into some troubles years ago because they didn't mutually agree upon the objectives. So that's going to design this mutually agreed upon, and both what you're measuring and how you're measuring it. And then from that point, settling on reporting mechanisms. So it can't just be a black box. You're going to have to report on them frequently so you could track the progress. If anything comes up, add to it, subtract, but just make sure that it's a collaborative process.
All right. Councillor Jagger, please.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Perhaps my question to Chris. I was surprised that in some ways there isn't an option 4, whereby Elgin County would try to address on its own some of the issues and the dissatisfaction and lack of clarity or performance prior to finding an external solution. So there's nothing, I don't see anything here where we first tried to get our house in order. And then because there's probably room for savings, room for better performance, room for to address all of these things even internally. And it sounds like the only solution is to immediately jump to an external partner. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Councillor, so I would say that was embodied in the status quo option. It's not status quo in terms of just keep on doing what you're doing. There's obviously a need to respond coming out of the service delivery review in terms of the quality of the service and being able to track the efficacy of that service. So there would be certain things that you'd have to do to invest to build up to further build up and strengthen the competence in the new organization. When we looked at it for the money that you're spending, you know, the thing that occurred to us and what swayed us in the shared service direction is you already have an organization for whom economic development is their core competence in your backyard. And there are shared interests that go beyond, politically, political boundaries drawn on a map. And so you could spend time trying to re-engineer that service, or you could look at contracting and leveraging resources and taking advantage of collective capacity by entering into a memorandum of agreement or shared services arrangement with a purpose-built economic development corporation. That's ultimately what swayed us in the direction of the shared service model that we're recommending.
Further comments?
Mr. Warden, it's Bob Crusoe.
Hi, Bob, go ahead.
Yes, I'd just like a little clarification as I listened to all the options. Basically, if we go with option 2, we're just outsourcing the whole Economic Development Corporation process to the existing business. They're taking on a second customer. They have one good satisfied customer, but they're taking on a second one, doubling their workload basically. But we're outsourcing it. It's that simple. And if we're happy with what they do, and there's no reason they couldn't tweak the product that they deliver to the county so that it's different than they deliver to the city. Very fundamental things. We have a beach at Port Stanley, and last time I checked, St. Thomas doesn't have a beach quite that attractive. There are all kinds of things that are very, very different. But there are a lot of fundamental things. So is it fair to just view this as outsourcing and decide if we want to do that or not?
I think that's a way to view it. Sometimes the term outsourcing gets people backs up, but it has an additional benefit beyond outsourcing, which is you guys reside in the same geography, and economic development doesn't necessarily, again, I'm gonna sound like Brooke Rickett, pay attention to political boundaries. There's an opportunity through combining forces through the EDC to have that more integrated, holistic approach to economic development, and also pooling resources so that you can deliver the specialization that is needed, because you are economically diverse across across the region. And so in that sense, it is different. One of the reasons why we landed where we did.
Further comments? Councillor Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, just one thing. I don't see it entirely just as outsourcing. If we are going to take some of our economic development staff and have them work with the Economic Development Board of St. Thomas. So I don't see it entirely just outsourcing, because we will be having some of our employees working with them. So just a point.
Thank you for that. Councillor Jagger, did I see your hand up? No? Okay. Councillor Peters.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. A couple questions. Just one is if the agreement is signed, and this is with the County of Elgin, how do we ensure that each of your respective municipalities, i.e. you in Central Elgin, Mayor and Deputy Mayor, or anywhere across the county, that we're all going that we're all going to be on the same page? To me, that's really important, that if local municipalities are putting resources into economic development, how do we get them on board to make sure that we're all on the same page, totally going forward. And on that page going forward is how do we, Elgin County has a really good branding program in place with the Progressive by Nature. I think so personally. I also like what we're doing in St. Thomas, and I don't want to see us have to spend a whole bunch of money on either side rebranding ourselves. So how do we utilize so much of what's all the good things that have been done from the county and done from the city and economic development, and how do we make sure that we are all on the same page? And on that issue, I just want to have clarified again, because I was late getting in. When we speak economic development, do we speak tourism as well too? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
See Chris nodding his head on tourism. Is that correct,
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, tourism in our analysis is part of the scope. In one of the sectors, a number of other sectors were also raised too in terms of importance. Agri-food, agriculture, arts and culture came up. There's an opportunity to, I think, put a spotlight in some dedicated support around those all sectors that are important to the county. In terms of getting everybody on the same page, I can speak to, involving the local municipal partners, in addition to speaking with county council as part of this review. We heard there was general support, but of course the devil's always in the detail in terms of how the relationship evolves. So I think when it comes to time to crafting the MOU, thinking about, some standards or some level of agreement around the level of engagement of local municipal partners, just as it is with the very, representatives and leaders from the various sectors and businesses, is going to be an important piece to, there's a level of trust that people seem to be willing to invest in this based on our conversations. And so to sustain and grow that trust, you're going to have to think about how you build that into an agreement. And in terms of the branding and the assets that you already have, what I would say is, probably a logical first step after an agreement is in place. And, I'm not telling Sean how to do his job, but there's probably going to have to be some sort of asset mapping process that is undertaken. So you understand who has what. Not just in terms of, not just in terms of the brand of the city and the brand of the county, but the local brands of the LMPs, and then, the various sectors, and, what is true in terms of assets on the ground, as a way of, thinking through how you're going to, service the specializations, how you're going to, what kind of, programs and approaches you're going to put into supporting overall economic development in the county. So I think that's one way, kind of shortly after an agreement's in place, or maybe even through the process of developing an agreement, that asset mapping is going to be important, so that you understand what needs to stay the same, what maybe can be enhanced by bringing it together, and quite frankly, what net new may need to be developed as a result of coming together.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor French, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm a bit confused to the fact that what's happening here. I'm not against looking at this, and I do agree with what Councillor Peters has just mentioned. I think that's something we've really got to think about. But what's happening here is basically we're asking, or there's an ask that Elgin County's trying to buy in to the EDC, right? So on my take, I would like to see a sales pitch. Like, I want to know what EDC can do for Elgin County. I'd like to see some things that they have done. Like, show me what you're doing. Like, I believe you're doing it, but I would like to see that. We haven't seen that. We haven't heard that. So to me, if you want us to buy in, we need to get the sales pitch.
Thank you for that. Further comments?
Hello. Hello. Rhino.
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
go
Sorry,
ahead.
I probably don't have the right button. Can you just give me some more information on timelines, like what the timelines you had for some of this process to occur?
Yeah, so, pending, Julie and staff coming back with a recommendation on how to proceed, and the same happening on the St. Thomas side. I don't think it would be unreasonable to look at having an agreement in place and being ready to go operational in time for the next in time for the next calendar / fiscal year. I think is a reasonable target to drive towards. That that's what 7-8 months time within which to get the appropriate approvals and an agreement in place and approval of that agreement.
Yeah. Okay. It just helps give some perspective as to how, fast or how much time we can have to get some more information. Thank you.
Further comments? Sean, go ahead.
Thank you. I think I probably have a few comments, but I'll try to keep it short. I want to go back to Councillor Peters' comments about the branding and also about the different local municipalities. And I think it's important for everyone to recognize that the process where this came from is that when the county came to the EDC looking for effectively assistance or an option to enhance economic development services. And I can tell you already that my staff is already out in the county doing economic development. Hugely through our Small Business Enterprise Center. We're in every municipality in Elgin County already. What we've been largely hindered by in the past has been sort of an unspoken rule where in certain areas, I'm not going to go out and talk to a county business because it's not my role. When people call me about the Ford lands, I don't deal with it. I hand it off to somebody else and assume it's being dealt with appropriately at the county level. And I assume it has been. But I will say we get the calls first a lot of times. We have a very strong reputation in the real estate environment across Ontario. We're very well connected with the province and different ministries across the province. And to be honest, I appreciate the idea of a sales pitch, but we're not actually here to sell anything to you. It's our goal to work closer with the county regardless of which way this goes. We don't see the boundaries at the borders really being as important as a lot of other people do. And we continue to market the county as a tourism asset. We continue to market properties in the county. I've sent a number of investment inquiries across to the county staff, and I'll keep doing that regardless of how this goes. I think it's in all of our best interest to have a strong economic development vision for the future, and we think we can offer that. But at the same time, if the county chooses to continue operating at status quo, we'd be happy to work with whoever runs that, and we'll carry it forward. But really, I think what we can really offer is getting rid of some of the duplication that we do right now. We're both members of the Ontario Food Cluster, for example. We're spending money on that. We're members of a number of other organizations across the province that we don't both need to be members of. We can effectively be the same place, recognizing that there's different needs that are spread across the county and the city. But at the same time, if we connect those needs, I think we have a lot of opportunity that we're missing out on. There's an awful lot of neat things that are going to happen in this area in the not too distant future. As an example, we're getting a lot of film inquiries right now, and they're not just St. Thomas inquiries. They're looking at Elgin County and St. Thomas as locations to operate in. If we can consolidate some of those services, we might be able to attract better projects, better studios, better films, right? That goes for industry, it goes for culture, it goes for all sorts of things. Our push, we're not really pushing as hard on investment attraction right now, given the current environment, but we're pushing on community improvement, and that's something that we would work hard for across the county regardless. Having a strong county only benefits everyone. So we're not really going to be St. Thomas focused only if this goes forward. We'll do what we're doing now. We'll continue to strengthen the region and do what we can to do that. So as far as that goes, I think I would say that we're in a pretty good position to carry that forward if the county would like us to, and if they want to if you want to continue to go the way you're going, we're also very happy to work with whoever does that. On the branding side, I don't think we would take away the city or the county branding. I think we would want to keep running with it. It's strong, it's powerful. I think what we would rebrand probably is the front-facing vision of the EDC. We can't be the St. Thomas EDC if we're marketing St. Thomas and Elgin County as a whole. So we would probably change to something like the St. Thomas Elgin Economic Development Corporation. on the front-facing side, and we would have a number of brands that we promote as a result of that. So I think that's the process we would recommend going, and of course, I report to a board of directors who would have to approve that, but if the county wants us to take this forward, we'll take it to our board and we'll have that conversation. So again, I appreciate everyone's comments so far. It's been really interesting to hear the thoughts, and we're excited about this. Our team is excited. We love working with the people in the county. The different businesses have really energized us over the years, and we'd love to keep that up. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Further comments?
Sorry, Joan?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Sure, just one other thing, and I agree with that. I think that, there's an overarching global kind of, if you want to call it, thing countywide, but I think there are individual things that are different for each municipality. Example, as someone said, we don't have a beach, that's obvious. So, there are certain individual things that, it's like a bigger umbrella, and then we all have our different little pieces that fit under it. So I think that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Further comments? Am I missing anyone? Are we finished? I think we've had a pretty good discussion. I'm glad of that. Are we going to go home and think about this? And I think that was the intent today, to have their presentation, first thoughts, kick the tires. So I'm hearing a lot of open minds. I'm pleased with that. If there's no further questions, we will adjourn. And I want to thank everyone for your attention today. Julie, am I missing anything?
Just since it's a special meeting of County Council, we do have to, as County Council, receive and file this report.
Yes, so I'll need a mover and seconder for that.
So moved, Mr. Warden.
Mennel and Martin, are we ready for the question?
Deputy Warden Mennel.
Yes.
Councillor McPhail. Gone. Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jaguar.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
8-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. We're legal, just need to adjourn or anything else?
Just have to do one confirmation bylaw and then we can adjourn.
All right, one confirmation bylaw.
Read it first, second, and third read of bylaw 21-12, being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the Municipal Council of the Corporation of the County of Elgin at the March 22nd, 2021 meeting.
Moved by French, second by Purcell. Call the vote, please.
Deputy Warden Mennel.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jaguar.
Yes.
Councillor French, or Councillor Marks. No, Ketchba.
Yes.
It's the end of day. Mr. Warden.
Yes,
8-0, the motion is carried.
catching that for me. All right. Adjournment, finally. Again, before we adjourn, thank everyone for your attention. I do a mover and seconder, please. Martin and Jones. Vote, please.
Deputy Warden Mennel.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jaguar.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
8-0, the motion is carried.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Thank you.